You're listening to the Rosenfeld Review. I'm Lou Rosenfeld. I am joined by Heidi Trost. Heidi, how are you?
I'm good, Lou. Good to see you. Good to chat with you.
It's great to see you. We actually do see each other. Our guests are going to be listening to us, but we're going to start with something that might conjure up a lot of visual content for them. Before we do that, let me just introduce you. You are the author of a soon-to-be published Rosenfeld media book coming out in December called Human-Centered Security: How to Design Systems that are both safe and usable. But, what are we going to talk about first? We're going to talk about rock climbing. And that's got good visual content. So everybody get a picture in your mind of a big, scary cliff, and you're facing
picture
it.
Yosemite.
Maybe El Capitan, and you've got a
Yes.
little bag of chalk on your hip. Why are we talking about rock climbing, Heidi?
Yeah, well, that's funny because I just went to El Capitan just a few weeks ago, and I didn't climb it, but I observed people climbing it, and it kind of all of these things that I'm about to say will really hit home. So I learned to start rock climbing about a year ago. And what struck me as someone who is in security is how they tried to design safer systems. As you can imagine, rock climbing is a dangerous sport. If you don't do things the right way, you know, there's a lot to lose, right? Like you slip, you fall, the rope breaks, or the rope slips out of somebody's hands, or you aren't tied in correctly, and it's a life or death thing. So when you are learning the ropes, so to speak, when you're learning how to belay someone, which is how you the belayer is the person who's handling the rope. And
is there a belayee at the bottom of the rope?
You know what? There should be a belayee and a belayer, but yes, there's the climber and then the belayer. But it's really important that both the climber and the belayer understand the different safety checks that you need to do, and they do them all perfectly every single time. So as I said, it was really interesting to observe those different systems and that real commitment to safety. So first of all, you have to take a safety course. You have to learn how to do all of these things. And they give you all of these little tips and tricks on how to do things, which is especially important because you have to remember a lot. So you're nervous, you're trying something for the first time, and you're given all of this information, but they try to break it down into these easily digestible chunks. They give you different ways, different mechanisms to learn these things. And they instill kind of different maybe points of friction, if you're thinking about it from a UX perspective, or like different checks, right? So every time you go up on the wall, you have to check the person who is either, the climber or the belayer. And each person kind of, checks the other person to make sure, okay, you did this, you did this, you did this. Okay, you're ready to go. And then, you switch and you do it for the other person.
So there's a very clear protocol in place, it sounds
There's
like.
a very clear protocol. They do the same thing every single time. The climber checks the belayer and that they've done what they're supposed to do, and then the belayer checks the climber and makes sure that they've done the things that they're supposed to do. Then there's also a bunch of different things within the climbing gear themselves that helps to keep you safer, like I said, kind of those different checks. So as I was learning all of this stuff, it just struck me as this is a way to design a safer system that understands that people are people and people forget things. And sometimes, you get nervous and everything goes out the window. So, there are different things that will keep you safer, even if you get super nervous and you forget everything else, right? So that was what was really, really struck me when I started learning about rock climbing.
Well, this is great because, it's such a great metaphor, and as I think about it, like my hands even get a little sweaty, and I got to imagine a designer or researchers working in this space of security user experience, right? That's the actual term that people are using, and you use it in your book. Security UX is like, you're trying to help people in a way, not not have horrible failures, not to fall off the cliff, so to speak. But just like they have to have trust in the system, they have to trust, if they're the belayer, they need to trust the climber, or vice versa. You got to have some trust in your relationships with people in the security space, the actual chief, whether it's the chief information security officer or the developer. So there's like an interesting environment, right? And the protocols, I'm guessing, have not been worked out yet for you as a designer or researcher to work with those security experts. Or has it? Are there protocols emerging, or is your book kind of, in a way, setting the table, hopefully, for something to emerge?
I think there is a shift in terms of people working more closely with cross-disciplinary teams. And I think where that has emerged from is because folks are increasingly working with PII, personally identifiable information and personal information, EPHI, electronic protected health information, financial information, all these kinds of protected information. And they start a project and they're super excited, and 3 months go down the road, and 6 months of development and all this stuff, and then it gets to the legal team or the privacy team or even the security team, and they're like, no, this is not moving forward. So your team is invested in all of this, and now you have to wait for them to look at it, and of course those people are very busy. So it ends up halting projects, and folks on UX teams and development teams now have kind of learned the hard way that it's much easier to involve these cross-disciplinary teams from the very beginning so they don't stop your projects. Now, I wish it wasn't that way. I wish it was more collaborative and wanting everyone to work towards those improving security outcomes, because actually it's a chapter in my book. It's called Find the Right People, Ask the Right Questions, because I believe it so strongly. And I've seen it work when teams are actually brought together. They come up with better, more effective solutions that are both secure and usable.
So let's talk a little bit about the actors in this play, if you will, and maybe even what some of the props are. Because I know you do that in the book. You have some characters that are recurring. Why don't you paint that picture? And I'd like you to really kind of dig in, especially to what the designer's role is in this space. Are they the hero? Well, they're the hero because that's who the book is for. But are they the people who kind of have control of the security UX, or is it not typical for them to have control of it? I got to imagine it's one of these slippery things.
Right. It's something that no one has thought about before. So then all of a sudden, so the security user experience is something that no one has thought of before in a particular circumstance. So the designer says, that doesn't make sense to me. Will it make sense to our users? Hint, it probably will not. Or it's something that surfaces as a terrible user experience, and the designer says, I don't understand why we're putting so many roadblocks in place for our users to do this particular thing. They're not going to understand it. They're probably not going to come back, or they're going to question this, or, whatever it is. It's probably at some sort of inflection point where the business is going to stand to lose money. So at that point, the UX person is thinking, I don't understand why it is that way. Well, there's probably a reason. You might not like what it is, but someone at some point in time has made the decision to make it this way for whatever reason. And sometimes it's just because security. So that's kind of the first answer to your question.
Oh, we'll keep going then. Are there others?
Yeah. So you asked about the different players. And I think the goal of the book is to help designers understand the complicated security UX ecosystem. And the reason that I created the players or the different characters in the book is just to break that down and just make it a little bit more easy to understand, because it's very complicated. And the dynamics between the characters, that kind of ping pong effect, is really, really important for designers to understand. So who are the three players? The first player is your user, and I call her Alice. So Alice is, like you and me, she's buying shoes, she's choosing a new healthcare plan, she's uploading her government-issued ID to her digital wallet. She might be thinking about security or privacy, but she might not be. But the most important thing for UX people to understand is that she's expecting the interaction with your product to go as planned. She's expecting to be able to do the thing that she set out to do. So there's an immense amount of trust in that. And trust often is kind of a proxy for security and privacy. She expects it to be secure. She expects it to be private. So I emphasize that because when those expectations aren't met, or she has expectations that are unrealistic or just aren't reality, right? Like, you aren't protecting her information, but she expects that to happen. So that's why I'm emphasizing that. The other players are the security user experience itself. And I chose to personify the security user experience as Charlie. And in the book, Charlie is pointing a finger at Alice and kind of being kind of menacing. And the reason that I wanted to personify the security user experience is because it is sort of that dynamic. You have a security warning that just pops up, and it's like, go do this. Like, something bad is happening. I'm basically preventing you from doing what you set out to do, and now I need you to go do something else, or go figure something out, or Google this because you don't understand it.
And it's for your own good. Right. Hopefully.
Right, but you can understand why Alice would say, I'm just trying to buy my shoes. I'm just trying to upload this thing. I'm just trying to get this thing to my boss, like I said I would. So the dynamic in the relationship between Alice and Charlie is often strained. And I think that's something that UX designers need to understand. When Charlie says things that Alice doesn't understand, or when Charlie is a false positive and Alice learns over time, I can just ignore him. It's no big deal, until, of course it is. So that was why I decided to personify the security user experience, just to make it, just so that you could see how those dynamics are at play, and how Alice learns to distrust or not take Charlie seriously, and what that could mean potentially for the security user experience.
And Charlie's a complex guy. I mean, Charlie means well, usually, right? But Charlie doesn't necessarily communicate well. And Charlie doesn't necessarily engender trust. And sometimes he just speaks gibberish, right?
Exactly. Yep, totally. And then you have the third player in this ecosystem. And it might be a player that UX people haven't thought that much about, and that's the threat actor. Now, the threat actor could be a nation state. It could be the people acting on behalf of that nation state. It could be some kids, who have learned how to hack, or, they're called script kiddies. They are, could be, some organized crime unit. It really could, you often don't know who the threat actors are, but they are actively trying to steal Alice's information, to trick or manipulate Alice, basically do bad things. And they're all within this bigger universe, right? This bigger ecosystem of technology change, socio-political things that are going on, different regulations, stuff happening in governments, so there are three main players, but they're also acting within this greater ecosystem.
So the designer comes into this space, and how do you frame their role here? Are they primarily there to translate what Charlie is trying to say and do in ways that engender clarity and therefore trust? Are they trying to put lipstick on Charlie the pig or something? So how would you frame the basic role of a designer in this space?
Yeah, I like the idea of translators or even facilitators of these conversations. I think more than anything, I see designers as facilitators. And especially since I come from a background of UX research where I often was acting as a facilitator, I feel like a lot of designers have those skills already, where they're taking complex topics and distilling them in ways that people can understand. They're getting the right people in the room to talk about the right things and move towards a solution. So I do see the UX designers acting as facilitators. They're also, obviously advocates for the user experience. But I think it's really important for them to understand the security side of things and what your folks in legal, privacy, and security are saying, because you may not understand why certain things are done certain ways, and you need to understand that as well in order to arrive at the best user experience, which includes security. So if you don't understand security, you can't, on some level, you don't have to be a security expert. I'm not. But you do need to understand some of the fundamentals and be able to have these discussions with your cross-disciplinary colleagues in order to arrive at better solutions.
So we're going to get into how you do that, but we're going to take a quick break. Everyone, this is the Rosenfeld Review. We'll be right back. I'm going to give you 5 reasons you should be using the Rosenverse. First one, where else are you going to find 100 events that you can attend for free every year, 2 a week, about product management, product design, and UX design, plus a highly engaged Slack-based community of over 13,000 of your peers. What else are you going to find in the Rosenverse? You'll find hundreds and hundreds of recordings of conference presentations and community session recordings, all in one place from a single search browser interface. And behind those hundreds of recordings are hundreds of experts, people who have advanced the field, people who are your peers who are doing interesting new things, all in one place. Why else should you use the Rosenverse? We've been advancing the field of UX since 2005. You're going to find the most advanced content on such topics as design operations and program management, UX research, and a host of other topics, from climate UX to civic design to how designers can work better in product organizations. Lastly, you've been trusting our content since we started back in 2005. Whether it's our books, our conferences, our community sessions, well, we think you're going to trust the way we've brought those all together so that you can spend less time searching and browsing and more time learning and benefiting. I hope you'll try out the Rosenverse, and I hope you'll consider upgrading to a gold paid membership, because it brings you a lot more. Not only do you have access to hundreds and hundreds of recorded conference presentations, but you also get access to the Rosenbot, which is a ChatGPT 4 level chatbot that we've been training on all of our content, including our growing collection of nearly 60 books and counting. It's all there, it's all great content, and the Rosenbot is a cutting-edge way to get at it. You can try the gold membership out with a trial for 2 weeks. Give it a try. Hope you like it. Welcome back to the Rosenfeld Review, talking with Heidi Trost about her new book coming out in December, Human-Centered Security. And we were just going to get into some of the specific differences about security UX when compared to all the other flavors of UX you may be familiar with, whether it's doing UX in e-commerce settings or UX in in enterprise. What's so different from your perspective about this? Just, I mean, like, if I'm good at switching contexts as a UX professional, shouldn't I just be able to drop right into the security UX without really missing a beat?
I mean, I think that being able to switch context is really important. And I want designers to know that it is like other domains in the sense that you're going to learn new words, right? Like you're going to learn new concepts, like obviously.
And the book helps with that quite a bit.
Oh, well, thank you. But one of the biggest differences about working in security, I think, compared to other fields is the dynamics of those three players that I described a little bit earlier. You have that introduction of the threat actor, but you also have to think about how is Alice, your user, going to react to this? And it's this really, I wish ping pong was even an app description, but it's really not. Like it's like a ping pong match gone haywire, right? It's probably like if I were to play ping pong.
It's like an arms race in a way.
It's like an arms race, right? So, like if you think of something, and I'll try to keep this brief because this isn't a technical description of what MFA is, but I hope because most people understand what multi-factor authentication is or what two-factor authentication is, that this resonates with them. So at first, when multi-factor authentication came out, you'd get a text on your phone, a 6-digit code, you'd enter it in, and that was the second factor after you entered your password. Well, folks wanted to make, I mean, that's annoying, right? Like you open your phone, you have to remember a number, you have to go back to your computer, you have to enter it in, and it's just a pain, as I'm sure this resonates with everyone. So one of the things that, whether it was UX designers or developers, I'm not sure who made this decision, but they created this prompt, right? This, pop-up on your phone through your authenticator app that you could just press OK, and then you would be signed in. Well, there were some unintended consequences with that. So threat actors are smart, they're savvy, they figure, you put this obstacle in front of me, I'm going to find a way around it. So one of the things that they started to do was, well, let me take a step back and say threat actors know your users as well as or better than you do. They understand human psychology, certainly a lot better than a lot of security folks do. And they just know how humans operate. So when you see a notification on your phone, right, and you're holding the baby and you've got groceries in the other hand, right, and you're walking to your car, you just click on a thing, right? Like you just, okay, stop, like just stop beeping, stop notifying me, just go away. Threat actors are totally onto this. So, they would just bombard people with these messages, hoping that someone would just press yes one time. And of course they did. So again, an oversimplification, but again, threat actors understand users as well or more than you do. And they're going to play off of how humans human, right? I'm not going to.
I love that.
Security people like to sometimes say, user error or users are the weakest link or something like that. But like humans are humans, including security people. So what they ended up doing was some applications, like you'll have to enter, in addition to the notification, you'll have to enter a 2-digit code in order to get into the system. So it helps stop, that push notification fatigue, that MFA fatigue. But it's a loss for usability, right? So now you're kind of going backwards and having folks enter that code again. So that's just one example of like, you wanted to make things easier for the user. The threat actor figured out, some clever way around it because they understand people, they understand how the systems work. So I guess my hope, my takeaway for designers listening to this is that you have to be really iterative. You have to understand that there's going to be unintended consequences of any sort of decision that you make, any sort of design decision that you make. And that you have to know that you're going to have to be very nimble and iterative to combat the tactics of threat actors because they will find a way.
Well, it's interesting. As you're describing ping pong game back and forth between users and security professionals on one side and the threat actor on the other. It's such a level of complexity because both are highly variable and they're second guessing each other all the time. In a way, it makes me think of the three-body problem. If folks are not familiar with it, the idea of calculating the gravitational pull of one celestial body on the other and vice versa is mathematically pretty straightforward. But when you add a third, it becomes crazy. And you should all read the book or see the TV show based on this. It's really quite good.
And I didn't even mention Charlie by name, but that prompt, that notification on your phone, that's Charlie.
Right.
And that's Charlie being so freaking annoying, right? That she just learns to say, okay, like enough already.
Enough of you, Charlie. And then you find out it wasn't actually Charlie.
Wasn't Charlie.
Well, but that's also what's so interesting, and you're saying the need to be quick and nimble and constantly ready to evolve that experience is really important because the technologies are changing so rapidly, and in particular security technologies. So I wonder if there are any big changes on the horizon that designers and researchers should know about. Are we going to see some major change, for example, in the use of biometrics, or is two-factor or multi-factor authentication going away in favor of some other thing that we should be getting ready for?
Well, passwordless was one of the things that I talk about in my book. I won't go into it now because you can read the chapter, and I also have a podcast episode about it as well. But one of the things I was thinking about that we sort of just like glossed over was the need to protect data and information. So just to kind of ground us in that for a second. So we're talking about cybersecurity, which is a subset of information security. And information security is about protecting information. I know, duh, like information security. But it's really, really important for us to understand that we're protecting information so that we can protect people, right? Because threat actors can do bad things. Not only threat actors, but governments and corporations can do bad things with data as well. So we want to protect that data so that we can protect people. And I think that's something that really resonates with designers as well. Like, yes, you're protecting information. Information security maybe sounds lame and dull. It's not. It's really amazing. But it really is about protecting people. Okay, so let's go back to your question about what's on the horizon. So one of the things that I think is both very exciting and worrying is the idea that we will have these AI assistants or AI agents, AI basically acting on our behalf. And those assistants are going to know so much about us, probably more than the people around us. And inevitably, those systems will be hacked. And some of your most private information is going to be leaked. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the biggest things that I'm concerned about, is that I just see the inevitability of this happening. And as we give more and more information away, that's connected to us, how is that going to be used against us? So that's one of the things I'm worried about.
It's interesting. It's like the AI-based assistants. First of all, for a lot of us, the metaphor of the anxious and almost overly helpful intern is what often comes to mind, and that intern is powerful in ways, but not necessarily very smart. Right? They have a lot of information, but they don't necessarily do the right thing with it. And so that's worrisome just about when it comes to like many AI-based products. And then it's almost like you're creating an API to your digital presence.
Mm-hmm. Well, even the agent taking actions on your behalf, like you said, if they're not you, but they're given permission to do things on behalf of you, that opens up, threat actors aside, that opens up a whole other can of worms of who is responsible and,
God, I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's say I'm eBay and I want to make it possible for my users to have agents that bid on, which is kind of what they do, right? Like bid on these products.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. We got that credit card information. Let's go to town. Charlie's. Oh, good Lord. I'm trying to work in the.
Well, so the people designing these products, UX designers, you need to understand what you're protecting and how it could be potentially where things could go wrong. Mm-hmm. So Adam Shostak is one of the people that I talk a lot about in my book, and he wrote my foreword. He talks a lot about threat modeling, and one of the questions in threat modeling is what can go wrong. So designers really need to understand what the possibilities of what can go wrong. And as people who understand that, combined with their cross-disciplinary teams, you can help your user prevent those things, those bad things from happening. But you first have to understand them.
And that's why it's so good that you wrote your book. And, like going back to where we started with rock climbing, I'm like imagining El Capitan in front of me. And again, my hands are getting sweaty. I hope you get to try that out in a year or two. I'm sure that's what you're thinking about. I'm picturing you on El Capitan.
My next one.
But I'm really glad, Heidi, that you wrote Human-Centered Security. It's clearly something a lot of us need. We're just starting to dig into this area as designers and researchers, and your book couldn't come out any sooner. That's so important. Let's wrap it up with, in fine Rosenfeld review tradition, with your gift for our listeners. What'd you bring us?
Yeah, so I wanted to digitally introduce you to Matt Wallert. So he is a behavioral scientist. He's the author of Start at the End, which is a book I highly recommend. I think the book would be helpful for UX designers, UX researchers. You'll love the part where he talks about his hatred of personas, and I'm inclined to agree with him. And the book is really good for people in security, just understanding people and behavioral science. He also has a bunch of YouTube videos. He posts a lot on LinkedIn. He's going to be on my podcast in a few weeks. And he is the founder of Behavioral Science in Organizations. And it might be too late by the time this podcast comes out, but there was a course that you could take that would be absolutely phenomenal for anyone listening. So highly recommend that you follow him and read his book and listen to his content. Start at the End, How to Build Products That Create Change by Matt Wallert. Fantastic. Got it.
And Heidi, thank you so much for joining us today and putting a little fear in us because, we're not going to be able to escape this one way or another. Designers and researchers are going to be working with some aspect of security UX. So thank you for making a big contribution to helping them along and for joining us today on the Rosenfeld Review.
Thank you, Lou. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thanks for listening to the Rosenfeld Review, brought to you by Rosenfeld Media. If you like our show, please subscribe and review it on iTunes, Stitcher, or your favorite podcast platform. I'd love it if you tell a friend to have a listen, and check out our website for over 100 podcasts with other interesting people. You'll find them all at rosenfeldreview.com.